welcome to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, Executive Director of the Community Career Center, a resource center located in Naperville for people in career transition. Career Center will bring human resource professionals and other experts together to provide career and job search tips to assist you as you search for your next success. Later on Career Center, Executive Director from Turning Pointe, Carrie Provenzale, will be here to talk about the Career College. But first, I'm happy to have career consultant Ruth Mensing join me at the table. Ruth, thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So Ruth, share with our viewing audience a little bit about what you've done, your background, and how you came to volunteer at the Career Center.
Well, it's a really interesting story. My background and my career is pretty much a hybrid of marketing, but also in HR consulting services and consultative selling. So a lot of that gave me some background in understanding how to package and promote products. On the marketing side and on the HR side, I really understood the hiring process and what employers were looking for. A little bit more about HR law too, so I can help people in understanding what their rights are. But people seem to think that that was really a dichotomy, and when I came to the Career Center actually as a client, I found out a little bit more about it, and I saw that these skills really came together and meshed well. I had done a lot of writing, and when somebody's in job search, basically what they need to do is to package and promote themselves.
Right, right. And so you started doing resumes.
Right, right. I started actually doing one-on-ones with people at the Career Center, and I felt that my writing background was really a strength that I have. I also help them with networking and strategic networking. But the writing I felt was really a good, strong point for me in a way I could help the people, because the main thing that I saw that they were missing on, and the biggest mistake they made, was they really didn't communicate their potential value to a prospective employer.
And is it telling a story? Is that how one should look at a resume? It's like telling your story, your work history story?
Very much so. You want to do it very briefly, because the attention span of the average person looking at a resume is you've really got to do something compelling in there to get their attention in the first 10 to 20 seconds that they're reading it. So it can't be a laundry list of every task you've done, and that's the biggest mistake most people do. They tell tasks. That's important, but it's much more about what you accomplished, that you can bring that potential value to a prospective employer.
How important is that summary statement at the very top of a resume?
Absolutely critical, because that is the first thing that people see. If you don't catch their attention there, you've lost them. I talk about it as kind of like a billboard. Think about how much time you've got to get somebody's attention with a billboard, and that's about what you've got. But the summary, interesting, even though it comes first in a resume, it's really the last thing that I put together for people, because I want to pull out what the summary is really the highlights of what you see further down, and it's the hook, so to speak, to get people to read further. It's interesting. Way back years ago, I took a journalistic writing course, and my teacher there said she would recommend me anytime for a job for journalistic writing, but that's where I learned about it, was really you've got to have that strong hook up front. And think about headlines in the paper. That's what your summary is, that gets their attention. And then early on, you've got to have that subhead that tells them a little more. So that's pretty much how it goes.
You know, I hear from hiring managers all the time that that summary statement is so critical, to your point, to encourage them to look further down into the resume. So if you don't summarize what you've done and the results and accomplishments in that summary statement, you may not get them to look further.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are some of the misconceptions about professional resume writers?
I think one of the main ones is that people think that we all write resumes the same way. We're all the same. There's some subjectivity to resume writing, although there's generally accepted practices, especially through our national organizations. When I got my certification, that helped me to understand that. But really, we want to customize it at all possible for the job seeker to really tell their story well. So a lot of them think that we're all the same, but you know, you may want to talk to a couple different people to get a good fit. A lot of people think that they can do their own resume. You need to think about that.
Yeah.
Is that the best use of your time? Because it does take time. And what a resume writer can do is pull a lot of those stories out of you. And that's one thing I think that we really can help people with. A lot of times people don't recognize what their real sweet spot, what their great skill is, because it's intrinsic.
Yeah.
We take it for granted.
Right.
And so many times I've asked people about different things they've done, they just go, well, that's just part of me, that's just how I do it.
Right.
But they don't realize how special it is. And that's a lot of what I do, is pull those stories out of people, what those accomplishments are.
Right. And I know that you spend some time talking with the client before you actually put their resume together. And I've seen some of the resumes that you've done, and they are top notch. I will just say that. I mean, they are top notch.
Thank you.
What is, I know there's a number of mistakes that people make when they're putting together their resumes, but what's some of the top ones that you would say that people make?
I think including too much information way far back, unless it's really relevant to the position that you're seeking and hasn't been represented somewhere more recently in there, it really doesn't belong in there, because like most of society, people really aren't that interested in what you did a long time ago. They want to know, what did you do recently?
Yeah. I know that there are some clients, though, that we see that are, they're headstrong about wanting to put, go back 20 years. But to your
It depends
point,
on the position. I've talked, recently I worked with somebody who was an executive, and in his position, they wanted somebody with a bit of years on them. But a lot of cases, we have to be concerned about, with baby boomers in particular, making them seem fresh, not rooted in the past. So particularly, I try to explain to them, it's really presenting what you've done recently and not getting hung up on what you did a long, long time ago.
Do you talk a little bit to your clients about, their email address, if it's an appropriate email address, or LinkedIn, whether or not to put that on your resume? Do you go into things like that with
Yes,
your
I
clients?
do. And you bring up a good point. I don't run into it as much recently. A few years back, yes, but making sure that the email address is something that doesn't have anything inappropriate in it or controversial in it, something that doesn't date them. They tend to not want to have an AOL address for their professional one that they use, or something that sounds silly. You can have multiple email addresses, I do, and you want to make sure that they represent you well and dignified. Or if somebody would be in a creative field, maybe something a little more edgy, but generally, you want it pretty straightforward and easy to remember and find.
Right. I often tell job seekers, open up a new email address, a new account where it's just for your job search, and that way you go straight to that. It's not, it doesn't have a lot of stuff in there, and it's really.
Oh yeah, you don't want one that's with your spouse or with your kids, or says anything about your family or your dog's name. It's just, you don't want anything kind of goofy like that. You want one that only you are opening.
What about putting your home address on a resume? Is that really?
I don't suggest using street address anymore. It's really irrelevant. Most people don't send you anything in the mail till far down the process, if at all. People are concerned about identity theft, especially if they're not comfortable being out on social media. But the main thing I tell them is, it takes a separate line.
Yeah.
Think about it. All that space on the front page, especially near the top, is very valuable. Do you really need that in there?
Right. And if you're applying for jobs that are maybe out of state, it could deter a potential employer from bringing you in if you show that you're...
It could. I don't have a problem with naming the community, because usually there are a lot of recruiters that they get a little bit leery if you don't put at least the town or the state.
What about phone numbers? Do you need to put multiple phone numbers if you have a home or a cell phone, or just maybe your cell phone, one that goes directly to you?
If you're in job search, you better have a reliable cell phone that only you answer, and
only has your voicemail.
Only has your voicemail on it. Again, you don't want somebody calling your house and having kids answer the phone. I had a client who had an elderly parent living at home, and I said, does he answer the phone? Oh yeah. Well, he just tells them to call back later. And I said, no, that doesn't really give you a professional view.
Yeah. It's important to really have your own cell phone number on there.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that doesn't mean that you have to be reachable 24/7.
Right.
If you're driving down the road, you don't have to take that call immediately, but you'll certainly want to go over somewhere, compose yourself a few minutes, and then call back.
Right.
Most people are okay with that.
Right. So what are some tips for discovering your value proposition? Can you share some of that?
Yes, yes. Generally, when I'm talking with people, I talk to them about what are the things that you've been complimented about in reviews. And from your colleagues, what do they say? Wow, you did a good job with such and such, or wow, this was a great value you brought to the team. What are the things you've been complimented on? That's many of the times they come up and they say, oh, that's just me. Well, no, it's a special gift you have.
So they really should try to figure those things out, like write them down, keep those throughout their
Absolutely.
career, right?
I always talk about, when I'm talking to people, have an attaboy or attagirl file. This can be electronic, it can be paper, but every time you finish a project or you get a commendation or a pat on the back from somebody in email in particular, keep a copy of it at work, keep a copy of it at home too. Because the reality is, in our world, you never know when you're going to get called to HR, and meanwhile somebody's cleaning out your desk, and you get this little box, and there you go. You don't have time to clean those things off.
So make sure you keep
and
those.
make sure you keep copies of all those things, all your reviews, because they're good reference material. And another thing I suggest to people is talk to some of your former colleagues, particularly if there was a massive layoff or something. They're going to be looking, and they're going to need help. Help each other out. They can often tell you more than you know yourself.
Yeah. You know, I know there's another question that always comes up, and I'm curious your answer on, to this. Education. Should you put the year you graduated?
I think for recent graduates, it's okay. I don't suggest people go back really far and do that, because if you put one date on there, you have to put all of them on there. Say somebody that graduated from college 20 years ago and then recently got a master's degree. That gets a little touchy, but it depends. I certainly wouldn't put high school on there unless that's your highest level of education. And the date doesn't really matter. Most people assume that you've completed high school.
Right, right. Okay. So as we wrap up, what is the takeaway for today? The summary of the...
I think that don't be afraid to ask for help getting a resume written. It's a good investment of your time, because you really need to be focused on getting out there and getting in front of people. You don't want to get bogged down in it. I know that it's important to keep it up to date. Once you have it down, you can have one master one and tweak it this and that different ways for different jobs, but be sure that you keep track of which version you've sent to which place.
That's so important.
Oh, it is so important, or it can be really embarrassing when somebody calls you.
Absolutely.
And also, be sure to make that you get across to people what your potential value is, what your accomplishments are.
That's going to really help you land your next success, right?
Absolutely.
Well, Ruth, we are out of time, so I can't believe it went by so fast. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your resume expertise to our job seekers. And if you're interested in learning more about having someone help you with your resume, contact us at the center. Now, don't go away, because when we come back, Turning Pointe's Executive Director, Carrie Provenzale, will join me at the table to talk about their career program. We'll be right back after these important public service announcements.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Welcome back to Career Center. I'm Kimberly White, Executive Director of the Community Career Center. And joining me at the table is Turning Pointe's Executive Director, Carrie Provenzale. Carrie, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
It is good to have you here. I know that we are just entering a partnership to work with Turning Pointe. But before we go into that, please share with our viewing audience a little bit about you and Turning Pointe and some new and exciting things going on there.
So Turning Pointe just turned 10 years old.
It's exciting.
In January.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I have been part of the organization for the last 4 years, initially as a consultant and then as a member of the board of directors, and most recently joined as the executive director, and couldn't be happier about that.
Great, great. So tell us a little bit, for those who may not know about Turning Pointe, tell me a little bit.
So Turning Pointe is located here in Naperville, and we have a school that serves children who are junior high and high school age who are severely impacted with autism. Then we have a career college that serves individuals that are more 21 and over seeking employment opportunities, and they spend a year in a college program curriculum with us. Both of those programs are built on our trademark COPES program, which is best practice for individuals with autism, how we address communication, organization, positive behavior supports, escalation management, and social sensory needs. And we use those throughout the school to ensure that we can best educate all of our students.
Very good. So I know that you all do, similar to the center, some of the things that we do, you have a curriculum and modules that you work on with your students. So from resumes, mock interviewing, let's talk a little bit about that career college program and how we're going to partner here together, and then just share with our audience.
Sure. So the career college program is a 1-year curriculum. We also have a summer program. It's like a boot camp, if you will, 6 weeks, focusing solely on the COPES component.
Okay.
But the year-long program that we're in the middle of now is first semester we focus on general employment skills and social skills. How do I talk to my boss if I need a day off? What do I do when I get my first paycheck? Those more life skills that are wrapped around employment. We work first semester with our students. I should mention we have 16 students in that program right now.
Do you cap at that number, or do you?
We don't. We really base enrollment based on how many teachers we have. We have a high ratio of teachers available and job mentors for our students because we want to set them all up for employment success. But second semester is when we invite corporate partners who might be interested in working with us to employ our students at the end of their year-long program. They join us in January and February to give presentations on the types of jobs their corporation or company might have available. In that second semester, then, it's our job to prepare the students for those positions. The promise from our corporate partners is not that they will employ every graduate, but that they would give them an opportunity
to interview.
And our promise is to have students prepared for the interview and give them a competitive edge.
So you mentioned job mentors, and so they help with the resumes?
So historically, that has been the case since it's a newer program. Turning Pointe's just turning 10, which is a great milestone. This program is in its 5th year, and the class sizes have slowly grown, which is wonderful. But that is why we're so eager to work with our experts in the community and work with the Career Center on the resume building. How do I look for a job if I wasn't wrapped around in this curriculum? And how would I interview? How do I do all that follow-up? So we're going to be partnering with you on those critical, how do I actually find a job skill?
And so I know we talked about your students going off-site, right, for some of this. And why is that so important? Why is that?
So our students, it's important that they see the environment that they might be working in, and we determine whether or not the environment is a viable option, if it's loud or cold, or we're watching for all of those. And some students are surprised when they go on a job site in February or March and a warehouse distribution center it's actually more a more promising prospect for them than they realize to work in. So it's important that we go out into the community several times and assess every option that we have available.
So the corporate partners that you all bring, they will host the students at their site.
Yes, and go over certain aspects of the job as well as the community, what they do in the community as well.
And I think we talked about job etiquette, so that's one of the things that you all focus on as well?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. And then how do you guys train your students for the workforce? What are some of the things that you do?
So we work, like I was saying, with them on the generalized job skills, and then second semester actually training them for the position. So one of the more elaborate and exciting partnerships we have is with Walgreens, who's really been at the forefront of the neurodiversity movement. And we have a mock Walgreens environment on site, and they train our students how to do that job, which again gives them a little edge when they go into interview. They learn how to face, they learn how to use the machine, the point of sale machines, and all of those important skills. But if anybody's interested in employment beyond that retail environment, we have to do task analysis for what the job will entail, and then pre-train the students.
And task analysis, tell me, what is that?
So when you and I approach a job, we may miss that there's actually 6 steps to it. We break all that down for all of our students and then practice all 6 steps because each task really does require, so ringing somebody up on a cash register might actually be 64 steps, and we need to make sure that we teach to master all of those steps.
How do students find out about the program?
So you can go to our website, and there's a online quiz you can take to see if it might be the right program for you. Our website is turningpointautismfoundation.org, and you can also feel free to call the Career College Director, Keitra Cunier, which is also on our website.
And is she, Keitra, is she one of the, she's one of the teachers there, and how many teachers do you have?
So Keitra is the director. We actually have 2 full-time teachers in the program and 2 full-time job mentors. So once we find successful employment, our job mentors continue to coach and step in where necessary to keep all of those skills up to date.
Would you be able to share, like, what is a day in the life of one of your students as they're going through this program?
So our curriculum in the Career College is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday during the school year, and it's 9 to 3. They're there for classes, and it's there's some electives that they're allowed to take to dive deeper into topics that interest them. We include some recreation and social, because all of that's really particularly important for our students. And again, it runs September until end of May, and then we have a graduation. And we've so far graduated 30 graduates, 27 of whom are employed.
That's awesome.
Which is great.
That's great. And then you mentioned your summer program, so it's a 6 weeks program.
Yes, and that's intensive, really focusing on COPES. So COPES is our hallmark trademark program, and it is talking to students who are on the spectrum about how do I measure and get in touch with myself and where I am on my ability to communicate, on my ability to organize, or how do I monitor my behavior so that I don't escalate in the workplace. And so that's a summer intensive that families are welcome to enroll students in as if they're not able to take advantage of the full year-long program.
And what's your, so you mentioned your employment numbers, right? So
Yes.
30
graduates.
27.
27 are employed, 2 have pending employment opportunities, and 1 went back to school.
Okay.
And then in this coming spring, we'll have 16 ready for employment.
16, that's your current class right now.
Right.
Right. And are you able to share, like, who some of your corporate partners are?
Yeah, so Walgreens, like I said, was one of our very first corporate partners. We also work with Dan Wolf Automotive Group. We work with the local libraries. We work with Sharing Connections, and there's a few other reflection software and another software company in the city that have been very good to give our kids a chance and let them be part of internships or part-time employment while they're building job skills.
Great. And what are some of the jobs that they will be doing? What are some of the job titles that your students?
So many of our graduates are employed at Walgreens in their retail center. We also have a student, one of our recent graduates is at Toys R Us distribution center.
Okay.
So, but we also have students that are working in corporate offices at Dan Wolf Automotive in the finance department. So there's really, if given the opportunity, we can collaborate with our corporate partners to find the solution to do the task analysis and support our students in the way they need to be gainfully employed.
So a corporate partner just really needs to contact you.
Yes,
someone there at your
absolutely.
office to help go through this process.
Absolutely.
How do you keep your alumni involved in this program?
That's a great question. So the Career College, one of the benefits that came out of this secondarily was this amazing connection our students start to make in this program. It's if you stop by, and you've been there, if you stop by our Career College Lounge, it's like any other college lounge. The students are hanging out, and many of them over these 4 years have said, we don't want to lose touch. So they started an alumni club themselves, and they now take day trips to water parks or Great America or Navy Pier, and they just do these fun social activities to keep them all connected and supported, which is a beautiful thing.
That is great. And so if you have some students, like this year, for instance, you may have some students that graduate and go work at Walgreens. So they may see peers, folks that they have been in school with before, been at Turning Point before.
Right.
So that's really a good fit, a good networking.
A safety net for them, absolutely.
That's nice. 10 years. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are going to be doing.
So we are really excited to be launching many new things this year. One of the things we're most excited about is this partnership. So thank you for that opportunity. We're also going to be celebrating this month at the Chicago Auto Show, First Look for Charity, as sort of the kickoff event that we are beneficiaries of. But more importantly, we are going to be launching a store where the community can come in and support us and support our students with a retail application of our own.
Right. So selling things like
Spirit wear
wear
for our students, which we're really excited about because we're a 10-year-old school now and a career college, and you know that college wear is very popular.
It's very popular. Now, is there going to be design competitions or something trying to do?
I'm so glad you're asking, Kim. We are going to be or are in the midst of a search for our mascot. So we are, if you go to our website, you can find out information. Only individuals, any age, that are impacted with autism may submit artwork.
Great.
And they may be chosen then to be our new mascot.
Great. Carrie, we are out of time.
Thank you very much for having me.
It is so good to have you on the show. Thank you so much. And I look forward to our partnership.
Me too.
I also want to thank Ruth Mensing for joining me on this month's edition of Career Center. And to our television audience, if you're unemployed, underemployed, or seeking a career change, visit the Community Career Center at 1815 West Dill Road, Suite 900 in Naperville, or search us on the web to learn more about the resources available to you. Thanks so much for watching.